For those of you running in the marathon, this is our 4th year doing the marathon. So we welcome you. Are there any folks here for the first time? In Cottonwood for the first time? Well, welcome, and we hope you get to spend some time in our city after the run. You're going to enjoy our run, and I think you're going to have a great time. Today we have 3 pacers that will be running with you. They're right here posing right now. They're in the green shirts. And, of course, we will have a lead bicyclist. Right now, let's please all take a moment of silence and remember all of those in Boston who were affected by the tragedy of 2 years ago. Thank you. Thank you. You know, we call Cottonwood the coolest city in Arizona, and it is a little cool right now. But by the time you finish, it will probably be about 30 degrees warmer, so do be sure to hydrate while you're running. Right now, I'm going to introduce someone who will tell us about Brian Mickelsen. I think it's important every year for us to remember the man for whom this event is named. He's the late beloved city manager of Cottonwood, and he would have loved this event. So please welcome George Gaylord, a longtime Cottonwood city employee who's now retired, luckily. George?
Thank you, Terrence. Thanks for being here today, everybody. Welcome to the Brian Mickelsen Marathon 2015. You guys ready to go? How you feeling today? It's going to be a great day. Isn't this a great place? I understand this has grown to be quite the event over the years. This is, correct me if I'm wrong, is now a qualifier for the Boston Marathon. That seems incredible even to say that, you know, in a little old Cottonwood, Arizona. My name is George Gaylord. I'm up here today because I knew Brian Mickelsen for about 20 years. In fact, I worked for him for about 10 years. Brian is, of course, the namesake for this event. He was an avid runner and a very popular, very well-known, very beloved person around this area for about, I don't know, 25 or 30 years. He worked for the city for 25 years and was the city manager. Brian passed away unexpectedly in 2007 at the tender age of 49 years old. And it's been kind of a tradition to have somebody come up here and say a few words about Brian before we get started every year. This year was my turn, I guess. So here goes. Brian and I, for some time, were part of what was arguably the worst softball team in Riverfront Park history. We lost the first 10 games of the season. We were so bad that the good teams were afraid to play us because they were afraid they would be the first ones to lose to us. Actually, Brian gave me a really big break in my life when he hired me and put me on the city planning staff just in time to be part of the Old Town, downtown revitalization process. That was something that I had kind of longed for a good many years. I actually bugged Brian to hire me for about 12 years. Only took 5 or 6 tries, and I finally got there. But it was just in time to kind of be part of that whole process. Later on, some years later, he promoted me to the community development director's job. And at that point, Brian got to be, or I got to have Brian as a boss, I should say. And he was quite a mentor throughout that period of time. One of the things that I really appreciated about Brian was that he was truly a person who led by example. And by that, I mean, he was the kind of example that didn't just make you feel like you wanted to be better at your job. He was the kind of example that made you feel like you wanted to be a better person, just being around the guy. He was the sort of a guy who emphasized the value of relationships, not just among each other, you know, the city staff, but also relationships between the city staff and the community at large, as well as how our community relates to the other communities in the Verde Valley. because Brian was a guy who was smart enough to understand that we all need to work together to address some of the issues that face the communities of the Verde Valley. Things like housing, economic development, transit, transportation, stuff that's probably too expensive or too difficult for any one of these communities to achieve on their own. We need to work together. Brian was a pretty popular guy around here, and if you had been here in 2007 and attended his memorial, you would have been one of about 500 or 600 other people who were here on that day to pay their respects to someone who had apparently affected us all in one way or another over the years. He was a very interesting guy, very young guy when he got started with the city. He looked even younger. If you've ever been to the library over there on 6th Street, there's a picture of him in the front lobby when he first got started working for the planning staff. It's a full-page picture on the front of the Verde Independent, and the caption underneath it reads, "Who is this kid and why is he running the city?" It's a really, he looks like he's about 14 years old. It must have been a pretty good reason, because he had a run of about 25 years, and this was during a point in local history when the average tenure for a planning director or for a city manager was about 3 years. Brian was here for 25, and during that time, he oversaw hundreds of millions of dollars in investment in this city, private projects as well as quite a wide array of public projects, up to and including the very popular $20 million rec center that sadly he never lived long enough to see its construction, but he was very much a big part of its planning process throughout those years. One of the things I always appreciated about Brian, and I think this is one of his favorite things, was his kind of open door on Main Street. We have a very small town style of government down in Old Town. That is to say, our door is open literally right out onto Main Street. I used to ask Brian how he dealt with the front counter traffic, you know, all the while dealing with his own priorities, because I was having to do the same thing next door as the planning director, and I was kind of new at it, and I asked him how to cope with it. He told me I basically had to figure it out on my own, because he said in 25 years there was only about 2 people who had walked through that door unexpectedly looking for him and wanting his advice or some answers on something, and he really there were only about 2 people that he had to turn away in that time, and he never told me who they were, but I think after 10 years I know I could probably figure that out. One of the things that always fascinated me about Brian was his kind of zen-like demeanor that sort of propelled him through the storm. Regardless of what was going on, he always seemed to have a very centered emotional meter. And when I asked him where that came from, he told me that the running had something to do with it. He said at the very least it made him a more productive, more positive person throughout the day. And I think you may all feel that way as well. I want you all to have a great day today. This is a great event, and I want you to know that it's named after a really great guy. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Okay, once again, let's have the competitive runners to the front. Competitive runners to the front. You're going to be following the pink arrows and the white flags on Sycamore Canyon Road. The route is the same as the half marathon and out, except you go out and back Sycamore Canyon Road. So on much of the route, you'll see pink paint and flags. This is good. This is good. You'll be following our lead biker right here, Romano Scaturo. And as I said, we'll have 3 pacers for you. I will count you down from 15 seconds. So we are 4 minutes out, 4 minutes and 10 seconds out from starting. So again, let's have the competitive runners up front. Hope you guys have a good run. Enjoy the course. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6,